Now let's move on to the second keynote presentation, which will be delivered by partner Jessica Kim from Deloitte Consulting. She's responsible for AI and data. Please welcome the speaker with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Kim. I'm just leading data and AI at Deloitte, Korea, I would say. Every day, my daily life is actually talking about AI with my clients, actually external as well as internal clients. So everyone is asking me about how we're gonna actually create AI agent or agentic AI, or even to create it, like how we're gonna create the data platform, how we're gonna create the vector databases, to feed into the AI engine or models. So yeah, I think it's very obvious that everyone is really, really interested in AI nowadays. But today, I'm not gonna actually talking about technology, which is kind of like out of my daily life, so which is really exciting. As many of people just mentioning in front, it's really fast-paced, world that we are living. And the future is really, really hard to predict, especially with AI. I can't even think of in about 3 years or 5 years, what's gonna be happening in this world. And I'm actually participating a lot of forums and seminars or some education sessions, and always people's asking me, okay, so I'm so scared of losing my job, in about a few years. What should I do? I think this is what I'm, getting almost every time I'm participating in those sessions. Again, we don't know, and we do already see the very big differences in the market. But what I can tell today is obviously for manufacturing, at least, there is a really, really huge opportunities, especially in Korea. I think previously Mr. Kim just mentions that, we were surviving with the manufacturing so far. Even a few years ago, I was a bit worried that Korea is going to be really sustainable with just manufacturing focused, business. But now it's actually changes significantly, that we are kind of driving the market in a way and, collaborating with a lot of advanced, sector leads globally. So it's huge opportunities. So, obviously, I'm going to actually talking about, how we're going to actually utilize and leverage these sort of really big opportunities today. So just the 6 steps that I'm going to actually talk through. So, diagnose the age of a hyper uncertainty, and then talk through what's going to be the autonomous manufacturing, which is really, really peak of the manufacturing innovation. And then I'm going to actually talk through some of the use cases from global leaders. Some of you might be already familiar with that, but still I'm going to actually go through it. And then we're going to actually look at what can be the energy challenges regarding AIs, and also what could be the potential government role for those. So before we start, obviously, I want to really show you the one interesting video here. Oops. Can someone actually push the button here? Thank you. What about sounds? Thank you. Okay, so it's a really, really short movie that you've just watched. It's actually coming from the NVIDIA GDC, the Washington DC, actually was from last year. And then, Jensen Huang was always talking about physical AI. And then at the time, we thought that it's going to come up, but not quickly like this, right? But it already came up, right? So obviously, some of you might have already watched the movie called I Cannot Help. The Byung-hun, is Korean actors, was actually, coming through in that movie. And then in that movie, the last scene that I was feeling very impressive was that there was just one person in the big factories. Everything is actually run by AI agent, the physical AI, and then there was only one person operating it. And now I feel like it's actually coming. Or maybe some of the advanced countries, advanced enterprise, they've already adopted those sort of technology. So I think a lot of people will actually talk about these, big uncertainties. And then I just want to summarize as poly triangle that you can see that, a lot of geopolitical issues that you easily see. Iran war is creating lots of issues. Like when you go to fuel agencies, obviously the price has gone up so much. It's almost double than before. And then also the biggest challenge is energy, right? I don't think anyone is actually thinking about how much you're going to actually spend the energy when you're prompting to GPT or Gemini or Perplexity or whatever. It's actually, spending a lot of energies. Then I could actually walk through a little bit more details next pages. But yeah, the energy is also another, challenges because it's costing a lot. And then technology gap. I think a lot of people, nowadays talking about agentic AI, but to implement those, obviously, it requires money again. The GPU, my clients always asking that, hey, can I use ABAC, with the smaller or cheaper, GPUs, compared to HBAC or HC200 or B100 or something like that. But actually, if you want to get really good outcome from your models, LLM models, or even small models, obviously you need to spend some money for those. So I think it depends on how you're going to actually drive your transformation, and that will create a lot of technology gaps as well. So overall, these three triangles, I would probably say that it's really biggest challenges. But the very obvious thing is the resilience, right? So resilience in your business is actually driven by, the AI-driven decision makings that I would say. Because obviously, the traditional way that traditional Korean business was a lot more weighing on, the fast follower mode. But I don't think it's actually working anymore. I think we need to really change the, the way of driving our business. I think that's very obvious. So, yeah, obviously, if we are kind of transforming our business in a way, I think a lot of people think of it's a simple transformation, simple automation. Again, another, the questions that I was actually getting from my clients very often is that, hey, what's the difference between RPA and AI? Obviously, it's hugely different. Obviously, automation, usually it's actually rule-driven. So humans can actually providing, very detailed rules that, okay, in this case, this should work in that way and blah, blah, blah. So it's actually transparent, but it's really hard to maintain. But in terms of the autonomous means you don't need to provide the rules. You gotta think autonomously, you gotta actually make a judge autonomously. So it's very free, compared to just automation. So it's a huge evolution. And then, especially for the manufacturing world, I would say, we should really targeting to autonomous factory. So Kim was actually also showing, a lot of like manufacturing companies has been adopting this sort of technology as well. I would call it as, it's more about dark factory concept. So dark factory concept is like, you don't need the lights, you don't need the people. There is only like AI agents just continuously working in the factories. It's really hard to imagine, isn't it? But obviously it can be possible because your robots gonna have the brain with AI. And then just, you gotta actually think, you gotta learn, and then you gotta advance as time goes by. So because of that, like, you can continuously work, which is related to your efficiency and productivity in your business a lot. I mean, there is, of course, always some side effect if you are just, adopting this autonomous factory or dark factory concept, because I think, a lot of people might lose their jobs. But again, like, it's a different discussions that we're actually talking about, because how, maybe it can actually create another style of, another more valuable jobs, to compensate those losing the jobs. So global leaders, such as Siemens and BMW from Germany, obviously, they were using, they actually adopted the industrial metaverse. So it's more about the virtual production line pre-verification. So it's kind of like you are seeing the simulation outcomes on your screens. So you don't need to really, go to the actual factories, to simulate your kind of products. So because of that, their production efficiency has been increased by 20% already, which was really huge benefit. And, obviously the 20% is just a starting point. I'm sure that it's gonna get increased and, getting increased more and more. And in terms of the United States, very famous companies like Tesla, NVIDIA, they're like a software-defined platform that they created. It's more about controlling all those hardwares, based on this software-defined platform. And those are again autonomous infrastructures that they can autonomously kind of controlling all the hardware issues and everything. So it's actually maximizing their manipulation. Their manufacturing flexibilities, which is really great. And then obviously for Korea, it's actually with the Po스코홀딩스 today, so I really want to mention this one as well. So Posco obviously created smart furnace control. So I think a lot of people might seen this in the YouTube or maybe from a lot of articles. So it's actually AI-based plus furnace control systems. So it's not just about productivities. They obviously it does really release any sort of carbon at all. So it's really it's really kind of ecosystems that you can even leverage your business, and also it's quite profitable as well. So very successful business. I would say that it's going to be double winning as well. So that's kind of like a really great cases that I want to share with you. But I think the problem is, I was just mentioning earlier, there is a AI paradox. It's AI energy paradox, I would say. So the problem is for example, when you're asking just one query to ChatGPT, it usually spends 10 times more than the normal search, keyword search, to Google or even in Korea, Naver or something like that. So 10 times more, it sounds like nothing, but it's a lot, right? And then from the surveys that I've been actually looking, by 2027, usually the energy that's spent by AI is going to be like almost similar energy that the whole country of Korea is going to spending. So can you imagine? Like it's going to be a lot. So I know that when we use it or consume it, we're never thinking about how much we're going to actually create how much we're going to spend the energy, but we should really consider it going forward because it's significantly increasing. So now I want to actually introduce the SMR. It's actually the small modular reactors. So what this is obviously, you gotta actually create the power supply system just next to your technology complex, like data centers, right? So data centers, as I mentioned earlier, is spending so much energy, and then it's gonna be significantly increasing as time goes by. So to make all those successful, to leverage AI, obviously energy is a number one priority that you need to resolve. So, there will be a lot of, different solutions, but SMR is going to be a really, really, good option for these energy issues, I would say. So, obviously, for all this stuff, what government should really do, right? So, for example, UAE, they obviously, appointed one dedicated Minister of AI. Actually, we did, right? So I think we can more focusing on AI business, AI strategy, sovereignty, obviously, which is really important. And also the USA, they were kind of securing technology hegemony and domestic production through aggressive subsidy strategies, through CHIPS and Science Act. So all these kind of a regulation is kind of helping AI is getting more freedom. The point is Korea, I was actually nowadays intensively working with a financial institution a lot more, but there are a lot of regulation barriers that we should really get through. So for example, I think they're gonna make the release of all the regulation more in the sandbox for AI usage, but actually it's still limited. So I think the technology is really advanced, but the regulation sometimes might be barrier. So I think government, I'm really expecting the government's gonna actually, acting on those AI regulation release more and more. So obviously those energy and also the government's regulation is kind of a really key things to achieve the sovereignty, which we always talking about nowadays. So let's actually talk about Korea. I think as Kim mentioned earlier, we are focusing on manufacturing, which is really, really, giving us good opportunities nowadays. So we have a number one manufacturing, companies. Well, I wouldn't say number one, but actually really high level of manufacturing skill set. And also it's really golden time, right? So, timing is really great. So I should say, this sort of great pivot for manufacturing world should be really the national mission for Korean government, I would say. So it's not just about business transformation, it should be really strategic and it should be a big mission for the overall company. So, I think everyone here is actually, some of you might be related to manufacturing or maybe some of them is not. But what I want to really say is that, we've got a really great manufacturing DNA, and then the world's highest quality manufacturing data. I think it still requires some more improvements, but this is really golden time, so we shouldn't really miss that out. So, the biggest difference is that, we should really do something. I think if we are not doing anything, like just standing there doing nothing, that's going to be the biggest risk. So, and also it's not a choice. I think it's kind of like a really mandatory things that we should really drive. So, obviously, myself and also a lot of people here should be a really strong supporter and partners. So, I'm sure that we can actually create a really great manufacturing world in Korea. So, thanks for listening. Thank you.
네.
Thank you. Jessica Kim, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. So we're talking about geopolitics and energy and technology gap and how they can act as bottlenecks in our journey. So of course, we can think about culture as well as systems and institutions. You've briefly touched upon regulations, but in Korea, for example, there's a lot of concern about jobs being lost. And such negative sentiment is quite widespread, which is now becoming a hindrance to the AI transformation. So we need to actually approach this issue from a cultural perspective, and also in order to secure energy independence, SMR or smart grid could also become possible feasible solutions, and also regulatory free zones. Deregulations as well as energy sovereignty and human capital. You talked about the importance of human capital as well towards the end of the presentation. So going back to Deputy Minister Kim, I thought to myself, so that was for 19th of April in China, there was a robot half marathon. So again, 1 year ago, on the 19th of April, I was there myself in Beijing, but I couldn't go there. But on Sunday, there was half marathon for robots. It was 2 hours and 40 minutes, the first winner. And it was remotely controlled, a robot, but it was not a remotely controlled, it was an autonomous operating robot that was able to break the record that was posted by humans and became a Guinness record holder as well. So now, for the half marathon, it was Honor, the Huawei subsidiary whose robot now became the second fastest runner. Not the human person. So it was the first and second, third robots that were produced by the same company. So something that we thought that would be impossible, for example, robot. There was an AlphaGo moment that took place about 10 years ago, when humans were beaten by robots. And we thought that we would be able to have that moment again quite soon, but that actually became a reality very recently. So we had the AlphaGo moment for robots as well. The ChatGPT moment actually came about for AlphaGo for AI, as was mentioned by Jensen Huang. But it's not that we have AIs all the time right next to us. So when will we have the ChatGPT moment for physical AI? Perhaps that is a question that I want to pose to the speakers later on. So please think about that.